Here we are, another Bigwater podcast, another shitty hotel fishing. You know what I mean?
it.
A couple acquaintances.
That's what you want to call it?
You guys, I don't know if the video, they always get mad at me when I start time coding things. I don't know. We shot a video today.
We did.
If maybe they haven't seen that, maybe this is before or after. We never know how this works out. Probably going to have the video out before the people see this. So we'll just talk through some things that happen. That's what people seem to like. We did these with you, salmon fishing. People love that. People that haven't watched that one, that probably don't know about washing balls. Do you remember that?
I remember
A woman on the dock was talking about washing balls. So make sure you go back and watch that one with Captain Chip. He's been on here. You're like getting towards record length. This is like, I think your third. I know it's your third. It's maybe your fourth.
Third or fourth?
Yeah.
Third, I think.
3 too many. But
Ain't that the truth?
longtime sponsor, 25th year, Silver Streak Lures, walleye stuff, using all that. We got Doug.
Don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's obviously not. Even less
poor
now.
decisions, and you just stick with them.
Even less now. We got Doug, FishUSA. Man behind the scenes, making things happen, turning and burning. Salmon fishing, Lake Ontario. Me and you have done a lot of salmon fishing together. We've always done in the summer. I honestly, just as a guy, I'm doing what I do, but I just don't think of salmon. I just think of summer fishing. We're here, it's 40 degrees. East wind's blowing. Great.
Absolutely.
So talk us through a little bit, Doug, because Doug's kind of the local boots on the ground, right? Like Chip's got more salmon experience than both of us put together.
Yep.
But Lake Ontario, I'll tell you this. When I was a kid, and even our mutual friend Todd Frank, who was on the podcast a couple of years ago maybe, Lake Ontario was a place you caught 5 fish when I was young, but they were huge. And you went to Lake Michigan if you wanted to catch like 1 billion of them. And it's almost like that flipped a little bit.
Yep.
But now Lake Michigan's kind of like in between. Like you can still get some good ones. Is that? But you can catch
It
a
goes
bunch.
from year to year. One year it's big fish, and then we're getting more and more fish, and the plants are going up again in Michigan. But
So
yeah,
we've got a lot of Ohio boys that are coming down here now. We're in New York, Alcott, Wilson, that end of it towards Niagara or whatever. There's a lot of boys from my neck of the woods that come down here and salmon fish. And like you said, I think they do it mainly in the fall, probably because of the schedule and stuff. And we saw like just a few boats today.
Yep.
And I think a majority of people we saw were probably, as I call it, for hire.
Yeah.
And probably because who would be dumb enough to go out there with an east wind and then take a small boat on top of it? We were the smallest, dumbest boat out there.
Who were that guy today?
Yes. And we just beat it in before technically that small craft kicked in. But so walk me through kind of how some of this stuff happens down here,
Yeah. It's just getting started, it seems like. Every year it can vary from week to week. But really, right now, it seems to be kicking off. And heard some good reports today. We caught some fish today. But typically around the 1st of May is when it really starts kicking off here. It'll get really busy here over the next few weeks. And there's going to be a lot of fish, right out here off Alcott and Wilson over the next month or so. And the fishing can be really, really good.
And to give a little background, because obviously they aren't privy to our conversations. That would be bad if they were, because God, dumpster fire. It's like Chip painted me up some thin fins. We've been kind of gathering some gear for this. The intention was to hopefully do some near shore stuff.
Yep.
But the Kings moved in. So walk me through what couldn't possibly happen. Maybe even if we had a winter this year, you're off a week or two, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, we were just kind of playing it by ear. We had gear for pretty much everything. We talked about doing a little bit of brown trout fishing, and that just wasn't in the cards today. But you come to Lake Ontario, you really don't ever know what to expect. This lake will humble you so fast. The fishing can be amazing one day, and a little wind or something can move that water miles away, and you just never know. But there's a lot of species that you can fish for up here: brown trout, the coho, lake trout, salmon. It's just so diverse, and it's just a really cool fishery. But you can really fish for those brown trout. Really, if you get the right weather, you can fish for them all winter long. But it really gets good in April, and here we are in May trying to catch some salmon.
Me, like I fish for a living, and I think of, you're salmon fish in the summer. It's like, well, if I put that in walleye terms, and when people would think the same thing about my stuff, I'd be like, well, they still have to eat and they still swim. They don't go somewhere. So, and honestly, that spring and the fall deals is there's just a lot less people. Like where we were at, I was like, Doug, how come nobody's here? There was one other trailer in the parking lot.
Yep.
If that was down like in Port Clinton, Ohio, where I'm at right now, I mean, there'd be 1,000 rigs. You couldn't even get in there. And so it's a different deal, right?
Yeah, no, it's just we're here a little bit early. I think the crowds will be coming in over the next few weeks, but fishing's good, and then you catch some fish right now, and it's just unique. Today we were really just fishing all over the water column, catching fish, and you never know about Lake Ontario, and it's a really cool place.
Well, I think that again, I'm OCD.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I like organized, labeled. If we need 2 of something, I want 4, maybe 6, right? I like being prepared. Even like when we were setting up on the first run, we had so much hodgepodge stuff. You brought stuff. Chip brought stuff. I had some things. I started actually because we've been talking about doing this for like 5 years. And finally just said, we're putting it down on the calendar. Let's do this. And so we had all kinds of different equipment because there's a lot of things that even like you said, that you need 50 rods out here. And again, somebody listening to this and they're like, well, I don't have 50 rods. Like, if you want to be successful all the time, that's just like saying, well, I want to work on a car. I think that's the thing I want to kind of impress upon people is it's like, yeah, we want you to go buy some stuff at FishUSA. But the same thing is the auto mechanic that's like, well, yeah, I occasionally use a swivel head socket. Well, if you work on cars for a living, you better have it. Yep. Like, you don't want people when you're paying and they're like, hey, you got any more of those? You ever have that back when you were chartering days where you're like, somebody's like, hey, that lure that we caught the first 6 fish on, that's only caught every fish. Do you have 2 of those?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You better have a boatload.
Speaking of that, I mean, we were ice fishing one time, Chip. And do you want to?
I don't remember.
Well, I'll tell you guys because I do.
Remember ice fishing? I ice fished with you?
You was ice fishing with me. Yeah, it's crazy. And I even voluntarily and everything. Got in the plane. Woo, did the whole deal. But we've told this story before, but why not tell it again?
You can tell
prototype. So the one
I don't think I've heard this story.
No? Okay,
No.
it's good. So the thing with Chip, you have to understand, sometimes I have to give him, where he's like, we're not going to go Ross mode, but we're not going to go Chip mode either. So we just got to meet in the middle. It's, like the ditch. So we're going to go in the ditch. So we're on the islands. You have to fly to get there, and we're testing out stuff. And literally, like year 3 of this rattle streak, like we changed, it was crazy. Different sizes weren't working because, you scale them up when you do the molds. And like certain sizes, they're actually, I shouldn't say this out loud, but they're a little different on things that you couldn't just scale it because they just certain sizes wouldn't catch them. Mm-hmm. So he came over there with me, and it was just like, man, because we didn't have long enough winters when we were doing this to like get a change in, and you know what I mean, go to the next thing. So we painted a handful of things up. Well, we got onto a couple of things that are still my favorite, and you guys sell them. But let's just say he brought one to the island, and I had it in my right hand, and I had it doubled over a lot. And he's like, hey, can I get another one of those? Like, you own the freaking company. I don't give a shit. He's like, okay, I guess I don't ever do just one anymore of anything. So
I thought I was being nice and giving him the one I had.
Well, he didn't know it was a hot one, or he wouldn't have. He didn't know it was the hot one.
I wouldn't have given it to him if I
Absolutely not.
But bring it back to this. So again, the equipment, it's like, I don't know that we had anything, and I don't want to get like ahead of ourselves, but when you told me, like, hey, what do we need to have prepared? Because the thing here is, I think that you can't impress it until somebody's there in the boat with you. Like I mean, we sell stuff. I mean, that's part of what I do. But I think that I have been really credible and honest with people through the years. So I have a little bit of a leash. And because again, it's like all the time I see guys that do what I do, and I'm in the tackle business you do, and they're like, oh my God, XYZ. And like when the guy buys it and it sucks, like there's other things that just don't belong in the market.
Yep.
And people are pushing them. And I'm like, dude, that guy's got shit credibility. Like everybody's going to find out. There are things that work and don't work. Yes. There are times on it. And I think that's kind of like this deal here. And I was really, I was surprised top to bottom. So I guess I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then you guys give me maybe, was that just a today thing? Or does this happen all the time? But we had the water, it was almost like walleye fishing to me. Because again, this is my eyes open. You guys have done this a lot more. Where you said, no, this is going to suck. We didn't have to put a lure in the water. And it's the same thing for me. And I don't think they don't trust that. Where it's like, you don't even need to put a lure in the water, guys. When that water is the wrong color, They either will bite in it or they won't bite in it. And part of that's also temperature, right? Which we don't have that in the same way in Lake Erie. So explain that a little bit to them about how that works.
Yeah. So, I mean, this time of year, you're really trying to find that warmer water. And that warmer water usually has that color to it coming out of it.
And what is warmer for you?
Right now, I think today we saw up to, 48, 49 on the surface. But we're really target down in the water column, that 42, 43 degree water. And I think, when we set up this morning, we were seeing that water down, 60, 65 feet, 42, 43 degrees. And it really changed quickly throughout the day. We were catching fish right off the bat, all through the water column, everywhere from 20, 22 foot down, all the way down to 65. And as we got towards the end of the day, we were seeing 40 degree water down 30 feet.
And so pausing there for a second, okay, people go, okay, that's information, but that was today or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but all the success with that we had started way before, because 5 colors of light core, we're using some 18-pound FishUSA stealth core, alternates black and yellow, the stealth part of it. At the speed we were going, we were probably about 21, 22 feet in that range,
mm-hmm.
give or take. Maybe on some of the things as shallow as 20 or whatever. When you think about being in Lake Ontario and only 20 feet down, you're like, no, it's like walleye stuff, right? But later on, when that temperature, and again, the only reason that when people are like, wow, do I really need a fish hawk? Can I just here, the temperature aspect was as important or more important than the speed.
Right.
And we were running that rigger, the cannon up and down, and literally using it like a pair of binoculars to see. And it was like, as soon as we went up there, because most guys don't have a downrigger down 20 feet or whatever, right? And we're like, oh, no kidding. No wonder we're catching them on 5 colors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you guys, when you're doing this, will you literally just take that downrigger up and down to kind of find that window?
Yeah. You're really looking for that temperature. And it's, again, up constantly looking at that, seeing if it's changing, fluctuating. Do we need to adjust up? Do we need to adjust down? And again, this time of year, those fish it's not uncommon for them to be spread out through the water column. As that water warms up, we get into more, everything heats up. We get into more summer, they're going to be packed into a tighter zone. But right now they're really spread out. But, today, you saw it where it was spread out first thing. And I'd say it was a really cool day because you saw it actually happen where it was so spread out and then it just kind of shrunk. And towards the end of the day, we were catching, our fish up really high,
Up high
because all that warmer water was up there.
Literally the high divers went from 200 back to, what was the shallowest you had?
100. Yeah.
If that, didn't we even have something higher than that?
I had the one low diver 60 for a while. We didn't take any bites, but I was trying up there.
Right.
We covered all the bases. And
so that clarity thing, do you think that temperature aside, that also matters? Because like you said, some of the species, like the browns, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And cohos and things will get basically on the bank in that off color. Now, is that also kind of like walleyes, again, grocery store stuff? Is that where the bait's at?
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you're looking at, different species, every species has their optimal temperature that they like to be in. Those brown trout being close to shore this time of year, they're a lot more tolerant of a little bit warmer water than the salmon. But yeah, just depending on what you're targeting, you're always looking at that temperature. You're always looking at that water clarity and the water itself. And you get into that clear water. It's not that there's not fish there. There's some fish there. Might not be a lot of fish there. And sometimes there might be, those odd occasions. But for the most part, you're looking for that really nice green river water that's coming out of the Niagara River. And if it gets bunched real in a tight area, you're going to find a lot of salmon. So
I was doing a seminar this winter, and again, when we even have these talks, or you got people at FishUSA shop and stuff, and sometimes you have to just I hate to say the word dumb it down,
yes,
but I'm always surprised at I still talk about tuning a crankbait in every seminar that I do, that because there's still multiple people that are like, oh, what now? How did we get, I don't know, that's on you, but still it's a relevant thing. And to where I'm going is, I had a seminar 100 and some people. These were fishy people. These are people that are into it. They're here. They're paying to do this deal. I would say I made them raise their hands, and I threatened them with gifts or punching or something, right? And I'm going to tell you, it was easily over 80% didn't know about satellite imagery. Free stuff. Again, mind blown in this day and age with stuff because you can put it on your phone.
Yep.
But some of the correlations I saw, even though this is 100% different than what I do on a daily basis, it's really not. You know what I mean? Like I can't, when I say it's totally different, I can't go take my gear and go do this, or, you've got to tweak your things a little bit, which we'll talk about. But looking at a satellite image, like if I'm coming down here again, which I plan on doing, I mean, you can, maybe I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I'm not going.
100%. Just eliminating water.
And getting close enough. So when you see those lines and things that you can course correct. Because again, we were in my Ranger 622. So big ass lake. And you've got to get pretty close, right? Like you can't be, even the fish where they moved today with, I mean, it was almost not reachable because we realized, just again, being not dumb, because we joked about needing to get an Uber or something, that we were just docking another port and have somebody go get the trailer, because we ended up going long ass ways, and that water was moving faster than we could drive. Yep. Basically. So is there anything that you saw that that you was like, hey, we need to do this different? Or
I think we adjusted very well today. We came here pretty much blind. We didn't have a whole lot of information. But we years of
nobody's fishing. Can't get information when nobody's fishing. There's
not a lot of people out there right there. But no, I think when you look at what we did, I think we started off while putting some stuff throughout the water column. We took a few bites real quick, started adjusting, and we got a little bit more dialed in before things really started to change on us and the wind really started to kick up. But everything really matters. At the end of the day, everything you do matters, whether it's speed, the temperature. You're always looking, adjusting stuff, and really focusing on the little things. And the little things always do matter. At the end of the day, whether you want to just go catch some fish or a lot of fish, I think the big difference there is, what do the really good fishermen do the little things a lot more. And I think the one thing that I've learned fishing Lake Ontario over the years is you don't want to be in the bad water. Don't rot in dead water. This is a line from Pete Alex, guy I fish with a lot of tournaments up here. Don't fish in bad water. You're not going to catch them. So don't fish for them. So go find that water that's good and it's going to hold more fish. And it's 100% true. I think we just want to, I think a lot of anglers just want to go fishing. And I understand that.
They struggle not having their stuff in the water.
Correct. They just want to be out there. They want to go fishing, but you're fishing in bad water. The fish aren't there. You're better off being an average fisherman, being around fish, than you are being a great fisherman where there's no fish.
The 90-10 rule is truly a real thing, that 90% of the fish are in 10% of water. And I would say that 10% of the fish, 90, it's like you flip that back around where you're like, the anglers generally are not there. They're not fishing over the masses. And like you said, and that's why I think a lot of times people are like, oh, what color this? And it's like, it wouldn't have mattered if you had 100 of them, the color, right?
Yeah.
But I guess backtracking slightly, one thing that I kind of thought about this, because again, I think a person like me, yes, I fish for a living, but I'm not going to go salmon fishing all of the time. I mean, it's just not time-wise and everything else, and I don't love it that much, but I enjoy coming down. Been doing it with Chip in the summer for almost at least 20 years anyhow.
Yeah, probably pretty close to that.
Yeah. And I think some minor modifications. So that's like I was going to bring up to you guys. So it's like, I've got a ton of lead core reels that I use for walleyes. Awesome. Couldn't use them as is here, but I almost think that I'm going to, when I have to redo some of my stuff, I'm going to make some slight adjustments. So like Chip does kind of the same thing, and I'll let you kind of take it from here. But I've got the lead core on there. Okay, why can't I use my walleye lead core? Well, I've got 50 feet of backing in there because I don't have line counters. I just use a TR200 so I can have more. It's basically, you get the same kind of reel. It's not as good as a Dakota, but 2 for 1, right? Because I got so many of them. But that 10-pound backing would be broke off in 14 seconds, especially after a little pinch point. But I put that mono in there for almost like a line counter, but also as a place to hook the board onto. And if you just use a little bit bigger reel for that 5 colors you're using for walleyes, right? Mm-hmm. Put a whole lot more like P-line, backing on there, a whole lot more. You're going to have probably a little bit bigger reel, and then use 20 or you use like 40 so you don't have to redo it all the time, right?
I use 30-pound
30?
braid.
But no, maybe the mono little section.
40-pound, yeah. I put the 40-pound mono and to clip the boards on.
Yeah.
Just because the pads get a better grip on that.
Yep. So again, that little modification, all of a sudden, if you're only going salmon fishing like me a couple times a year, or the average guy, that's what they're doing. Now all of a sudden you don't have to have a separate setup. Realistically, I mean, the rods, we were using some FishUSA flagships that you brought along. That's like they're not heavy.
No.
Like, I mean, you could get by with, what we're using on that. Same thing with the downrigger he brought, because again, I just don't use that stuff much. You had a FishUSA flagship downrigger rod that was awesome. That's a nice thing. Basically, I would probably just take the 20-pound mono off, and I probably would put 10-pound mono on.
Yep.
Just the last few hundred, a couple hundred feet or something like that. So really, a lot of this stuff. Same thing with the divers. Yeah, you probably need a different rod on some of those, but same reel. So you could use the same stuff, right? Using 30-pound braid. Not that much. I mean, yes, there is, but if you're just to do it a little bit.
I mean, it's just little tweaks, like you got me running lead core for the walleye this last fall. Well, I set them up so I can use them both ways, salmon or walleye. And I ran them on my big boards walleye fishing. I still put a heavier backer on there, and I run all braid backers a lot, but salmon fishing, you need it.
And
the mono in there.
A little tip that I've kind of learned, especially with the walleyes, is I'm putting a swivel in there on each side of the lead core so I don't lose so much lead, but also if you're in the boat and you want to make that connection quick because something happens. But now, for like what you're talking about, we put and again, you don't have to do this, but you had 20-pound fluoro, like a 30-foot leader that we used on that. For walleyes, I still use 10-pound mono because I want a little shock absorber in there. But I could cut that off so easy, to boom, boom, and switch that thing over. And you're probably going to want to redo it even if you did have that, because these kings they're beating your stuff up. And but I guess the point of this is you don't have to get so overwhelmed, because even in the video when they watch that, there's a lot of equipment going on.
Yep.
Probably wish we had a few more things of different things at times, or if the water would have been a little different. But you don't have to be overwhelmed. You could still go do this and not feel like you're just spinning your wheels for wasted time.
Yeah, you don't have to have all the rods. There's ways around things. You can use a shorter or one lead core, and you want to get deeper, weight it. There's different ways. Is it the best way? No, it's not optimal, but it's going to work and catch you some fish.
So the only thing that we didn't really have success with, I know you told me, so if they do watch the video and it's kind of making an inventory or a Christmas list, is wireline dipsies. Mm-hmm. When I said, I was like, what do we not have that we really need? And Chip did have a couple he brought with, but wireline dipsies.
Yep.
Explain that little process.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very common when fishing for salmon. It's just really, if you're trying to fish deep, and again, not coming up here and not knowing what it's going to be like, again, you could be fishing 20 feet down, you could be fishing 120 feet down. If you really need to get down deep, I think that there's no question wire divers are your best option. It just really cuts through that water. I think it gives a different presentation, different sound.
The harmonic hum is a term I've heard a lot.
I mean, and do you really know what it is? I think we're all speculating, but it does work really, really well.
So, Chip, what is some other, from Lake Mission to Lake Ontario? I mean, do they really fish similar?
Yeah, we use a lot of the same tactics. I mean,
colors maybe, aside from colors.
Colors are maybe a little different, but it's the same tactics. We're looking for temperatures and water color, clarity and stuff. But I mean, that all goes back to where the bait's at. That's why we look for temperature breaks or different things. That's where the bait's hanging.
Blue is goo.
Fish are gonna
go
there.
Blue is goo. You guys, blue is what did you say? There's nothing in the blue sea, or what was it? What did you say?
Blue water's pretty, but there ain't nothing living in the blue water.
Yeah, no bait, no good.
No.
That's right.
No grocery store.
But even today, I mean, some of the colors we used last fall, we caught fish on out here today. So I think it's more presentation and finding where those fish are at. That's the problem in the spring. Stuff's a little more scattered in the cold water. It hasn't set up as well. Plus, it blew today, so that water is moving to how fast. So, stuff's changing a lot.
What do they say? That the wrong color lure in the right place at the right level will catch a whole lot more than the right color in the wrong place.
Well, it's like I tell everybody. Everyone's like, "Well, some are the one that's going to catch fish." I said, "Everything will catch a fish."
Yeah, you guys are both color guys.
it's how long you want to drag it around before it catches a fish. That's what we want to optimize: is shorten the time to get in between bites. And
I think that's the thing too, because again, people. I try to steer people right with this and not be a sales guy, and it's like. But then the joke with me is always at the end of the seminar. But I'm only buying 2 husky jerks. What color do I get? You know what I mean? Like that's always the closer, because it's like guys are they're like little kids with this stuff, and it's they don't collect shoes. Hopefully, you're collecting tackle and stuff like that. It's part of the deal. But it's just like the thing out there to me, again, the fish hawk, if you were to get fishing information, if you had a buddy that was out there, or you went on a charter, if you went on a charter yesterday and you come out in your own boat today, that information is useless because of that. And the fish hawk thing is the only way on that to immediately see that. And again, the difference is I don't really rely on the temp, I would say, for what I do, generally speaking. We don't have, Lake Michigan, that temperature can change 20-some degrees with the switch of a wind while you're fishing. I mean, we watched it today. And again, those fish are more temperature sensitive, I think, than what walleyes, generally speaking, are. So a lot of our guys are walleye guys. But take that into consideration because, maybe if you're listening to this, you're like, hey, I'm not going to Lake Ontario. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of big walleyes in Lake Ontario, too, that these things apply, just not right here. But, in Lake Michigan, whatever you want to call it, Green Bay, Beta Knock, the guys that have done really well up there, they understand those currents and that water temperature thing. And they didn't even know where not to even go, like you said. But they don't even launch their boat there blindly just by watching the weather patterns or a satellite image. And they're like, man, how did that guy do it? And it's simple. They know those things to look for it. You're worried about what color spoon, and they know where to put the boat.
Yep.
Well, it just goes back to, it's like anything. You want to be good at it. You got to gather your information. It's a big, like you said, it's a big body of water. How long you want to run around out there trying to find fish, or the more information you can gather before you get out there, it's going to speed up that process of finding the fish and getting the right spot. And getting your head out of the boat, watch water clarity, wind direction, and what's going on around you, not just playing with your downriggers and how far your dips are. You got to, watch what Mother Nature's giving you and adapt to it.
Well, and I think that's the next talking point where I'm kind of going with this is like, I obviously, again, beating a horse here, I don't salmon fish as much as you guys, but every time I've ever done it, there is a very distinct line of we might as well be on shore right now. Right? Like with walleye fishing, you get windows.
Yeah.
With salmon fishing, it's like, when are we going to lunch? This day is done. And you guys are leaving way early. I always say I'm on walleye time, not salmon time. But going out there, I think one of the differences when people say, well, hey, we only caught 5 today and Doug and Ross caught 10 or whatever that number is, that's where the equipment does come into play. Because again, when we were catching those and we paid attention to the clues, you bump those divers up. So it's like, how many rods are we going to have in that zone? Because at some point, you can only put so much. Maybe you don't have, some of the guys you charter fish tournaments with have probably 6 5-colors on their boats. And when that's going, they're going to get an extra 3 or 4 fish before that. Either the fish boat traffic pushes them down or the temp pushes them up or whatever it is. And so at the end of the day, I think it's misleading when someone's like, well, I didn't do it right. I caught 5 fish or something. But even on my boat, right? Like you guys are joking, we're trying to set lines. You guys fish on boats that got a 14-foot beam. You can only let so many out at a time. And it's a different thing. So I think the point of that is if you're in a smaller boat and doing this or traveling around, you can't hold yourself to that same expectations of what somebody else is going to do with that different setup. Right? You almost couldn't carry enough rods. I had a Burt's rod corral on the front deck. I made another little rod holder just to try to get things out of the way because you really just need a lot more stuff.
No question.
Well, it's even like boat control. Like today, in a small boat, we could only fish downwind. There was guys trolling upwind. It was still doable, but
we could have. We just would have been a submarine.
But we wouldn't. And we wouldn't have caught any fish because you can't control your speed. A little boat with the waves. We're a big boat. You can do bags and both motors and get a little steadier troll.
And that's a big deal when you get on a pot of fish because
no question.
I mean, the time it would take. I don't know how long. Sometimes I would like to actually clock and see how long it takes. I know we did it way better on our second run than we did our first. There was a little bit of boat Nazi going on there. But just physically, I don't care if you're the fastest guy in the world, to reel in 5 colors, 7 colors, high divers, low divers, riggers, get them up to go back. That's a lot of time. Right? And then, when we went back on our second run there, I think that the water moved, the fish did move, but we didn't catch as many on that one. And
time is precious. I mean, it's, especially with salmon fishing, the bite windows can be really short sometimes. That 10 minutes that you're, winding in, running upwind, it can really make or break your day. Getting those 3 extra fish in that window, it's just time is very, very important, and optimizing your time and fishing how you need to fish, it matters.
I think the thing, and you guys probably think it's a different reason because you're going to bust my balls because I've known you guys a long time. But so I'll preface this by saying I do quite a bit of saltwater fishing. The guys watch my stuff, they see it, but they don't even know half as much as what we would it's our getaway time. Like I don't hunt that much or do that other stuff. Like that's my things I enjoy, but I don't have to have a focus of we have to be successful today or we have to do this or we have to figure something out or whatever. And it's crazy because a lot of the guys that we saltwater fish either kind of know what I do or somebody tells them, oh, hey, this guy fishes for a living or whatever. So all of a sudden that captain who's, we don't go schmucks. We're paying him just like I would do. And these guys are like, oh, you know what to do. And I'm like, no. Oh, no, you're, I'm like, no, I fish in freshwater. Even if I was a saltwater guy and I'm now fishing amberjacks, like you don't do that the same way that you do mahi or whatever. Like you can never master fishing, right? There's just so many things to it. And it's the same thing when you guys, I like to step back and kind of watch, you know what I mean? And say how you're reeling different, what you're doing, how you guys, and you do it different than he does it. But I like seeing because they're like, I know what I'm going to do, but out here it's probably not right. Like I'm really good with efficiency and I can run divers and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But seeing how it's different, even like how Chip does, like I don't put riggers down for nothing. I put my rigger down for a fish hawk. I think I had a rod on it literally in the last 2 years. But and you were with me for. I probably wouldn't even had one on there. Or I don't have enough lines to do it. And so with that said, like I think people sometimes when you go with somebody or you got a buddy, instead of jumping in there like, oh, I'm doing this, shut your mouth and watch.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to see when there's success or failure or how you do things different than I do them. And I think again, maybe I'm betting your fishing buddies aren't as good as my fishing buddies, but maybe they are. Or when you have a guy or you go on a charter trip or something, pay attention, man. Pay attention. Put this thing away. Like when I'm on guide trips and people are just playing on their phone all the time and they're like, well, what's going on? F you. Yeah. Like, Jesus.
Yep. No, you learn so much. I mean, just fishing with, even just different people. Like I fish, again, with I would say a small group up here, but when you get the opportunity to go fish with somebody else, take that opportunity to learn and just watch what they do. I mean, yeah, it's going to be very similar, but there's always going to be that one or two things that you pick up that you may or may not have ever thought about. Mm-hmm. And that just makes you a better fisherman across the board. I really believe that. And so get out there and go fish with, I think it's always cool. I know some folks, some charter captains, they go fish with a charter captain at a totally different port. Why not? Why not take that opportunity and go learn? It's just, I think it's always important to try to get a diverse mindset to how other people do it. Because I think you can, again, makes yourself a better fisherman.
A fishing thing, but also a life thing. Like when you go to somebody's job and they're like, why do you do this? Because that's the way we've always done it. And you're like, does it work good? No, but that's always the way we've always done it. and I think that applies with fishing a lot.
For sure.
Well, why do you use this spoon? Well, it's because that's what my grandpa showed me. Well, I thought you just told me you guys didn't catch shit back then. Well, we didn't, but why
are you still doing it?
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot. Like, I think people don't, again, and even all the educational stuff we put out, people are like, the electronic videos and all of those things, like, that's a real deal. Like, that's, and that doesn't, I work with Humminbird, like, specifically with electronics, but almost all of those tips and tricks and interpretation and things are 90-some% across the board, regardless of the manufacturer. You don't have to have a 12-inch screen. You can have a 7-inch screen, and it's generally speaking the same information, right? And all those things just matter. But we did lose some fish, though.
We did lose a couple fish.
I mean, I couldn't lose many.
Well,
but I was like, I was doing really good at it. I lost one on the downrigger.
The only one.
I think you lost every one you tried to reel in.
Yeah, but not as many as Doug.
I had more opportunities.
Because you wouldn't touch a rod.
Well, I mean,
he really did, he whined.
I was observing.
Yeah. He turned his back every time we'd fish on and just ran. Like a little girl. He just to the front of the boat.
I didn't want to throw you guys under the bus, but here we are. So you guys are not exactly what I would call boisterous. You're two of my more laid-back cats. I seem to have a lot of that. So it must be like hyper guys have to hang around with like chill dudes because to be like Tasmanian devil each other.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to host. These people want a little bit pizzazz. You know what I mean? You guys are just like, And And then I got camera people like giving me the, can we talk? This isn't a silent movie like you guys are watching YouTube. You know what I mean? So I mean that's part of what was going down there. You know what I mean? Yeah. The guy with the white makeup on that's doing the shadow box thing. Yeah. No, we have audio on our YouTube channel even. It's amazing.
We were talking, especially when you
were talking shit.
When you set the dipsy up wrong on the head of the turn for the opposite side of the boat. And
God, you guys are
tried to sneak that in without even
snails.
Telling us.
Yeah. Tried to sneak that in though, by the way.
He's really quiet about that, wasn't he?
He was extremely quiet.
So in all seriousness though, so I pulled some dipsies out. A good talking point. Then you can go back to roasting me. I hate not being prepared. And you said to me, is this a brand new dipsy? Because I don't lose that many. Usually it's if somebody tries to help me and then they spin it. So you said use some color. I use black, and black. And actually the ones that I had got from FishUSA, there were some purple and some chromes and some other shinier kind of things that there's no way in hell I would put that in the water. But when I'm getting ready to go fish with Doug here a year or two ago, he's like, oh, you want some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I got it. Now we're salmon fishing. Like that's what we're going to use. And they weren't set up. And honestly, that could have caught, as quick as we had some bites, little things when people are listening to us, you talk about efficiency. We didn't have the tension set and it cost us 2 fish. 100%,
no question.
Because they were too tight.
Yep.
100% cost us 2 fish. And then we didn't have the settings. Again, should have done it last night. We were having a good time with buddies, got in late, doing things. And those things, they literally cost us minimum of 2 fish. And when you're salmon fishing, that's not like, in walleye terms, that's like 6 or 8. You only keep 3 of these damn things. It's you're not going to get 40 bites a day, generally speaking, salmon fishing, just the time it takes to get in and out. So when somebody wants to know like to me, like a difference maker, just that.
Absolutely.
Our second run, we had stuff in the water and smoother. The problem was it was later in the day. It was rough.
Yep.
The water was moving. If we would have had that same flow at the beginning, we'd probably get 3 or 4 more in easily.
You be capitalizing on that first morning bite is so critical. And if you miss that window, again, you look at it, it probably took us an extra 15 minutes to get set up on the first pass than it did the second pass.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
And you take that first pass at 6:30 in the morning versus 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's a huge difference. Huge difference.
That just goes back to, like you say, we're used to fishing big boats and stuff. Now we're fishing little boat. Everything's a little bit different in how we do stuff and trying to work out. I've never fished with Doug before, so we're,
It's not that never again, probably.
It's your fishing.
We're going to set up some diver rods. They weren't set up right.
For us, for you, it's brand new. You don't salmon fish a lot. For us, I'm on a new boat. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're walking around, I'm tripping over, just getting the feel for the boat.
And just what rod holders you're using and going out and letting stuff out.
Let me tell you another one, because as a guy like with the media stuff that we do, I have a lot of really good fishermen around me. And I think like today, we got 3 captains, 3 guys that have more experience than the average guy by a ton. And I always say this, and I think you can say it, but doing it's 2 different things. It's kind of like when you have like 3 cooks that get in one kitchen. They're either fighting or one is just standing back and letting one do it. And the other one's like, oh, can I help you? And it's like, I would say that the biggest thing when, again, people listening to this are fishing with their buddies is communication.
Yep.
I did this, or hey, I'm really good at that, because if I don't on my daily basis, things get really screwed up or broke. Even like net behind you, hey Chip, because net, we got this behind you, whatever it is. And I would say that you're my water wife today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to have good communication.
Absolutely.
And sometimes with even just fishing buddies, someone assumes somebody else, or they're hesitant to take that. And I'm like, dude, just go. Like, you guys know what's going on.
Right.
And that gets you more fish. Like, these are really the things, and it's maybe not as fun to talk about because all these brand new, super cool Silver Streak colors that look so yummy, and the FishUSA exclusives and Lobsterson color for walleye spoons. That man right there named that one. Although we put that color together many moons ago because it just catches them. But
that's a good one.
I think we've had some conversations. We're working out a new line.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about that?
Well, it's top secret.
It
In
is,
front of
yeah.
you, Doug and I got it all figured out.
Well, I'm going to tell a little story about colors. So you probably don't know this one. So Chip, you've been at the helm for 25, 26?
25 years.
Yeah. Okay. So Mom, Chip's mom. It's just, when you go to a sports show, it's Mom because she gets me sandwiches and everything. Even if I'm not working for Silver Streak,
Feed them sloppy joes.
they. I mean,
She can take
care of you.
I've even had them delivered to me.
Wow.
Oh yeah, this is no $20 hot dog at a sports show. I'm getting Mom's sloppy Joe or sometimes split chicken.
Even she knows you got to give Ross special treatment.
Yeah.
He's a special person.
Yeah.
Very
very-
special, very special.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so at one of the sports shows, she came up and put her arm around me. She's like, "Is everything okay? What's going on?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "The spreadsheet or whatever they called it. I sent them an Excel sheet, right, with colors because this is a while ago. We were really blowing up with because when I started with Chip there, it was the walleye spinner blades, and that was like in its infancy, if you will, and a lot of those color patterns, a lot of more salmon stuff. But then it's like, oh, hey, just like Ludington watermelon or whatever. These things all of a sudden, when you're in Lake Erie, like the colors that work down in Pennsylvania and Cleveland, it's not that they don't work down in the West End by me, but there's differences. Right?
Sure.
So without dragging this out too much, we needed a lot of names because cool names like Chrome Blue doesn't sell. Lobsterson does, right? Like on the radio, right? Like Chrome Blue, no, Lobsterson, Hammer him, the Kevorkian. So I came up with a whole bunch of names because I was trying to be helpful. Mom did not. She thought there was some of them apparently were inappropriate.
You?
Yeah, I know. Pink Panties was somehow, that's another story for another podcast.
That one got through.
That one only because of sales. So Mom can be bought. I did learn that. But so I'm just wondering if these, what I'm getting at is Mom's kind of on my side. Are these names going to get by Mom?
Oh, yeah.
You said that pretty confidently. I'm going to show this clip. We're going to
You're
cut
not
this.
going to like them, but Mom will like 'em.
We're going to cut this away and we're going to use this clip and we're going to show Mom how much she thinks Chip thinks he's running the show.
Hey, we're a PG rated company. Your
We are.
nicknames aren't. She crossed a lot of your nicknames off. No.
And by a lot, I
No.
mean almost all of them. It was like it was like a politician's statement. They redacted everything and there was just like
Black
black lines.
lines through there.
They had the date on there and they had like the signature and I was like, ooh, that's it. No. So you want to talk about this? I mean, I feel like you've been we were at dinner and you guys were all like a bunch of those schoolgirls over there.
Well, it's coming.
You can't disclose all this stuff.
I mean, can we at least drop this on the Bigwater podcast here? I mean, these people aren't going to see this for a little bit.
Signature series coming.
It's coming.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Multiple colors.
FishUSA exclusives?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh,
100%.
amazing.
100%.
Amazing. FishUSA has a lot of exclusives. Shameless plug, but not. We got some Thunder Sticks coming.
Got some Thunder Sticks coming.
And the Husky Jerks.
Husky Jerks were just released.
Ooh, yummy. Literally, I shot a thing with Target walleye, and we literally caught them. I don't even know if you guys even had them then. I still had photo samples.
They're going to be good ones.
So anyhow, back to you guys jumping me. Doug, you earned a nickname today. You want to tell them?
What nickname?
Velcro.
Velcro.
Yeah.
Why?
On, off, on,
Well,
off,
you know,
on, off.
A lot of opportunities to lose fish.
You were on it. So let's talk about, I mean, with salmon fishing, if somebody said that they went 10 for 20 walleye fishing, I'd be like, try bowling. Right? I mean, it does happen at times or whatever, but with salmon fishing, it's almost, is it fair to say, acceptable with a higher loss rate?
Some days it just happens. What we talked about today, especially spoon fishing. We're using a lot of treble hooks, and I'm a huge believer that treble hooks they can be a challenge sometimes. I'd much rather have a fish hooked with a single hook. Once they seem to get hooked up, 90% of the time they stay pinned. But treble hooks, you get them hooked up and you'll lose them right behind the back of the boat. They thrash their heads, and I just don't think you get as good solid of a hook set with a treble hook. And sometimes it's you can have days where they're really biting it and they're latching on. You might catch 95% of them, but I've also seen some days where it's just you're ripping your whatever hair I have left.
It's not a lot.
It's not a
There's
lot.
so much more gray now.
But you can have some really brutal days that can really drive you nuts. It's frustrating because you're generating the bite, and that's the frustrating part. You're getting that bite, getting that fish to commit, and you just can't keep them pinned.
I would say, I think it's fair to say West Coast salmon guys are innovators.
But those guys are way more techy than
Lure Jensen, West Coast deal,
no question.
Washington or whatever, Dipsy divers, jet divers were like a river deal originally, right? Like they're basically like running them there, back trolling them almost type of thing. But regardless, a lot of the guys there are using, I think the proper way to say it is single Siwash. Is that proper?
Yeah.
And we were talking about that because Chip is this master of spoons, and all I've learned so much from him about just the intricacies, and like on our walleye size with Silver Streak, which is called the Junior, one of the smallest ones. Like guys always want to put different hooks on them, and you even just use a snap, not a snap swivel. And people are like,
just a lighter snap on the front.
Yeah, like a number 2 dual, because these things flop; they're not rotating. You got your swivel up on the.
Well, they're designed. Now you put a bunch of extra weight on there. There's just not enough surface area with the really small spoons unless you troll really, really fast. But, what you're doing is if you change, and it's whoever spoons, however they designed it, if you start changing their design, you're effectively narrowing the speed range of where that spoon will work. Like all our stuff is made to work in as wide a range as you can. You start putting a big spoon on there, well, you just knocked off a third of the low end of that spoon. So if you got to troll slow, it's not going to work. You'll catch some fish, but you're cutting down your odds of getting bites. So everything we try to do is to generate bites.
A lot of guys that are fly guys, I guess is the term, right? Using paddles and flies or using meat rigs and things. A lot of those guys that I know are using like a 3 or 4/0 VMC octopus hook, snelled.
Yeah.
So the hook point, if you're using an octopus, guys, you have to snell it or the hook point's not pulling the right way. And I mean, it's for a reason. Yeah. Because once you get those things in, you may miss an initial hookup, but you aren't losing them halfway and 3/4 of the way in generally.
No.
Well, and that's a lot of things. Even on spoons, I get asked all the time, people just put a hook on there. I'm like, did you put it on the right way? Well, what do you mean put on the right way? Well, a spoon usually runs upside down in the water. So even if you put a single or even the treble, you want the one single hook going to the bottom, trying to get that lower jaw hookup. But even if they've put single hooks on there, I'm like, I see guys got it going up. I'm like, what are you doing?
Not walleye style, boys.
Yeah, you're going to lose your bites. It's not going to hook up because it's in his mouth and it just comes right out. Where you want that hook coming down underneath it, so you're trying to get that lower jaw, even with the treble. So you put the one hook and the 2 go up.
So I would say
little things.
I would say another little but huge thing is, and again, you guys got to step back. This is where I tell you to step back and see the forest through the trees. Pretend you're taking your neighbor fishing who's never salmon fished before, or even anything, right? Or walleye fishing. When you see one of those like 5 colors of lead core, that the rod was literally, I thought the guides were going to break off of it. And right, I mean, it's just buried. Like Helen Keller saw that there was a fish on that rod. Like, hello, line 2, and that thing's just ripping and going. And then all of a sudden, it's not. And there's moments where I would say a charter customer or someone that hasn't salmon fished, your nephew or something, is like, he's off, and they stop. And that's when you need to reel faster because, right? Yeah. Explain what's going on.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
we had this happen today. I mean, a fish grabs that bait and just takes off. And when they turn around, you've got to be on it to catch up to them. And they will. I mean, it's so many times they'll start swimming right at you, and you think you have lost the fish, but they're still there. And you just got to keep reeling and keep that line tight as you possibly can until you get them to the boat. Because if you give them any slack, their mouths are really hard. And you give them any slack and they can pop that hook really quickly. So it's super, super important. Again, whether, especially as a new person, to your point of fishing with a lot of charters and people that don't do this all the time, they think they lose the fish and they're no, you got to keep
stop, put the rod down. And you're like, no.
I got a great example that we were running. This was a long time ago. My dad was still alive. We were on a charter and it was dead calm. You could see down in the water. Big, huge king on a Dodger and squid back then. And this lady reeled for like 25 minutes. And I'm getting ready to net. I'm like, oh, there's your fish. And she's like reeling. She hasn't looking. She goes, oh, is that my fish? And leaned down. The rod went right at the fish and the hook went boop. And that fish, she's like 2 feet from that. And he just went right down. She's going like, oh, did I do that? I'm like, Well, you really can't point the rod right at the fish, you know.
Yeah.
These fish can swim so much faster than you can reel.
Yes.
Yeah, it just is.
If they can absolutely outswim you if they want to.
So if these people watch some of those videos, they saw some rod pumping, which we allowed. The only time we've ever allowed rod pumping in the range is too. Give me some little tips on. I mean, maybe we shouldn't give tips today because we had, and maybe it was just the day. A lot of guys didn't catch fish today. We had guys come up to this fish cleaning place that they didn't have an amazing day. So I think there was things that are off, that east wind, all that water change, and obviously things were moving a lot, making excuses for ourselves slightly. But what are some things, if you watch that video yourself, like a football player watching the tape, what could was there anything we could, I know some of them just aren't hooked as good, but what are some little things that you try to do? Maybe it's not even today.
If you don't have to pump a rod, I would recommend not.
Because you're putting slack in.
You're putting slack in, absolutely. The reality, though, is especially with salmon, is sometimes you're just going to have to. Especially the big ones, you get them stretched way out there. You also got to remember.
What'd you call it? The salmon shuffle?
Salmon walk. Yeah, and what you're doing is you're just backing up and then walking forward and reeling and getting that line. You get some, especially when you get them on a downrigger rod where you're fishing with mono, and especially if they're really, really deep. There's a lot of line out there, and it's that. Mono is it's like a rubber band, and you really, really got to crank down on them, and really just keeping a real good bend in the rod is super critical, and then just keeping up with them. But yeah, sometimes you have to pump the rod, and it's not ideal, but it's just important to always keep that line tight.
Well, we should probably ask the guy that actually landed them all. What was it? Just, I know you're not going to say it was blind luck. What's the skill? I called you Yoda Master on.
It was just
camera.
skill today.
Yeah, I got
it is. It's just. I mean, it's fishing. You're not going to catch them all.
No.
It's, you could go out tomorrow and we don't lose but one fish. Every day is different. Just with the rough water, and I think maybe there was a few more of the cohos maybe that were slapping at them and not getting, because we got that one coho in there. You can see he was hooked, like he didn't even get it in his mouth. It was right underneath his jaw, buried. Sometimes they just miss and they're just in the side of the head or something. And
well, I'll tell you one tip that I learned from him a very long time ago, when he's using like that walleye board style. It's kind of ironic that the salmon guys use the walleye board. Old Gary Roach, shout out. But Chip, like the first time he did it, I was like, what the hell's this guy doing? He points it straight at it when there's all that tension, like it's going to go under. And now all of a sudden that thing's skipping, and you can actually take line, and you're not using that like ripping it. Because again, what you have to picture is that board going under is like that thing getting ripped like a drip sock. And then he kind of dramatically will lift that up once it gets to that point of like it's close enough to the boat. Like you guys watch the video on that, and you'll see he does it every time. That's a simple little thing that saves you. I guarantee that saves, if you do that, or people in your boat, saves you 1 or 2 fish a day.
Yeah, because if you bring it up too soon, that thing, especially the waves, all of a sudden that diver or the board goes down and it hits there, it's just like a freaking dipsy. It's shooting down. Now it's yanking back, and you got a chance to give slack line again, because now it's pulling back. You're fighting the board instead of the fish. So if you point the rod of there, it keeps it down in there. As soon as you can keep that thing up and out of the water, you bring it up and out. So it's just the little things. It's extra fish or 2 a day maybe. But if you do 2 or 3 of those a day, now it makes an okay day into a good day.
Yeah. I would say, we already talked about this, but I think the thing that I don't think you could impress upon somebody enough, unless they were in the boat, is the fish hawk. Like, is there anyone here that doesn't have one?
90+% of the people here fishing have a fish hawk. And in my opinion, salmon fishing, it's the most critical piece of electronics that you can own. I'd rather have a fish hawk than a fish finder.
I've got 3 12-inch graphs at my console. I'm not telling you that to impress people, and then I have it on my remote for my Minn Kota motor. When you're doing this, I never look at the speed over the ground. I could care less.
You care less.
Because it's so far off. Even Chip, when I was on his big boat, it was like, I said something because I was up in the helm there and it was dark and we're setting lines, and I'm like trying to help them out because they're doing 10 things at once on our last video that we just put out here over the summer. And it was like, I'm like, do we need to bump it up a little bit? Because it was like 1 mile an hour SOG, which is like going backwards for salmon fishing. And he's like, remember the fish hawk? I looked down, it's like 2.4.
Yep.
I'm like, people are like, no, that can't be right. They're like, no, we have a 1.5 mile current. Like to have a 2 mile an hour current is not super uncommon, you know, especially when you're out here, you got like Niagara Falls.
Yep. A lot of current.
A lot of current going down. I'll tell you the other thing that I was kind of surprised a little bit, but if you think about it in walleye terms, because that's what I'm always kind of relating things to, is lure size. So both you guys didn't talk necessarily about this, but you brought some tackle. We had all their stuff in the boat. And you go, oh my, big spoons. Talk to me about that.
Big spoons. I mean, especially in the spring, you got mostly, this time of year you got mag alewives, and they're 5, can be up 6, 7 inches long, and those bigger spoons really, really work well this time of year. And again, the DW, smaller, streak DW size spoons, that 3.5, 4 inch size, they work too. But I would definitely always this time of year, usually 90% of the time, I use mag spoons, and it's really just matching the hatch. We saw some dead alewives in the marina today. We scooped them out and you put it right next to that spoon. They're the exact same size.
Yeah, and again, some of that, like you said, it's carryover where people in the spring, you either have really small, really, really micro small stuff because it's the newborn or whatever, or you have some of that carryover bait fish. Like we have that with gizzard shad and things like that down my way. And so you got some bait fish left over. And these fish also, it's chew time, right? Like their metabolism is just starting to get probably more,
Those fish today, they were full of alewives.
Were they?
They were packed. And they're here to gorge. I mean, that's what they're right now. That's their main focus, is just feeding. And
wouldn't that be nice just to worry about?
Just eat.
Honestly, during a below day, that's all we cared about.
100%.
I mean, we ate some phenomenal food. I mean, as marginal of a guide on the water as you were really good on shore. I mean, marginal on the water. I mean, really marginal. But he works for FishUSA. I can't go too far into this, but marginal. But on shore, dude, you're 10 for 10,
No
bro.
doubt, man. I got dialed.
The food thing?
Dialed. I'm your guy.
If you need an on-water guy, that's your guy for sure. But color-wise, again, if somebody's coming down here, I heard green a lot. Is that kind of the thing?
No doubt. I mean, there's a lot of green, glow, silver, black is another popular color. But green, I think it's just the water clarity, where we're fishing on the water column. It just works. Do I have an answer for it? No, but it just seems to work. I'll use a lot of green, a lot of glow.
I think a lot of personal preference too, but it's a lot. Everybody says, yeah, you use green this time of year. You can do this. Well, everyone's trying green, so what's going to work? Green, because
gold nugget.
There's way more in the water because that's what is getting the airtime and talked on the internet or talked about. So
whatever's on the squawk box.
Yeah, there's more in the water. So, yeah, it's going to be more productive because people are running it more and leaving it maybe in the water a little longer. But you can see we changed colors up quite a bit today. We had a little variety of stuff. It wasn't picking out one specific color today. It was kind of across the board. But blacks seemed to be... greens went early. And the blacks kind of took off.
You're like...
That last one had a little bit of
some of that Hulk stuff. Some of the things, ironically, some of the same colors we used in the summer there in Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Yep.
But not much glow. I mean, a couple bites on glow spoons.
Yep.
Yeah, I was surprised you guys didn't have a lot of glow.
No, and there's days where glow's a deal, and if you're definitely in that dirtier water, dingier water, glow really stands out.
What about the back color? How much does that matter down here?
We'll never know.
Contrast. I mean,
there's days where it does seem to matter, whether it's you got some green dots or you got a glow or a white back. I think it just shows up better, especially like in an early morning, low light conditions. That white and glow back, they just show up. I just think the fish can see it a little bit better. And again, that's just one little extra thing. Again, you put a silverback spoon down there, they might eat it too. But if they can pick it out faster, see that target and go bam, they're just on it.
I think it's all, even like all the new UV stuff, we're trying to extend that range where the fish see the baits. That's why you do like the silver plate or anything. Trying to just do anything if they can see at a greater distance, you're going to draw more fish into the back of the boat. Now you've increased your odds of getting a bite.
Mm-hmm.
Not every fish that comes in there is going to bite, but the more you draw in, everything you try to do is draw fish to the back of the boat. Then you got to have the right speed, the presentation.
Well, and that kind of brings me to my last talking point. A thing that I learned more from summer salmon fishing is you can have something in your spread salmon fishing, and I don't think this is not necessarily completely true with walleyes, but not nearly as forceful. You can have something in your spread that will cause you to not catch salmon, or you can have something in your spread that if you don't have it there, you're in trouble. And I've seen that like with guys running big paddles or different things where they never hardly catch a fish on it, but if you take that out of the spread, all of a sudden your divers or your riggers ain't working.
Yep.
And so give me a little maybe experience or story on something like that. And does that apply to the spring or cooler water bite the same that does in summertime?
I think you can get away with a lot more in the spring here in Lake Ontario. When the fish are here and it's really good, it can just be really good. It really doesn't matter. Now, when it can be a tough, to your point, like there might be a day where you put a paddle on your downrigger, and that thing is just there. It's sucking them in. They're not eating it, but it's drawing them in. And they might be catching those fish on your divers. You might have a spoon on there.
It's like a girl in a bikini.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
It's Hooters is what it is.
And you take that out of the spread and it just dies. You put it back down or put a different color flasher back down. It might not be the color, but it might be what the presentation is that's drawing them in. And, we see it a lot. One thing I've seen a lot for sure is the chrome shark weight. I've seen the especially steelhead fishing, you change it from a black shark weight to a chrome shark weight, night and day. And that's just the downrigger weight. It's not even the spoon.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is if you do that walleye fishing, you probably don't get a bite on your inside stuff.
No doubt about it. But it's just those little things and just paying attention to those things. What you're taking off is just as important as what you're putting on. Yeah, you got to always remember that. And just what the presentation you had, we were catching fish. Now we're not. Was it the color of the flasher or the spoon, or was it just that was what drawing them into the other presentations and that's what they wanted?
And so where's a place maybe, because I'm not the guy for salmon stuff, maybe I probably know what you're going to say, stop in FishUSA on your way down there fishing or something. But like you told me, we stopped at FishUSA on our way down because Chip forgot a cannonball. You're supposed to bring a cannonball. So, that's your head hitting the bus, yep. But I had a 12-pound shark weight that I used for walleyes, 70 feet, and you were adamant. Like Doug is not, you don't know him like I know. Doug's not adamant about things. He's like, we'll make it work. Where I'm OCD, you're like, no, go get a 15-pounder.
Yeah.
So again, little things like that. Is that just because there's too much blowback, and could that even cause our fish hawk to not?
Yeah, today I don't think it would have mattered. We didn't have a ton of current today, but the day that you get the current, you're with a 12-pounder trying to fish deep, you're just not going to present your presentation well. And that 15-pounder it allows a lot less blowback. And there's guys that'll use 17s, but 15 is really a good downrigger rate for really fishing up high and even down low. So it's just really important. The color, we had a black one today, and I don't think the color would have mattered today, whether we had a chrome one or a black one. But yeah, that 15-pound weight here on Lake Ontario it's critical, especially when you get into some heavier currents.
So what is the thing, backing up slightly, that you've noticed as far as putting it in the spread or take it out of the spread where it's your kind of confidence thing? And again, that's probably more of a Lake Michigan thing because not that you haven't fished all of these.
When I did a lot of salmon fishing, when I did run cut bait, I was always running on my low divers, especially later in the day. I think it kept my downriggers active later in the day, running that cut bait. Even though I wasn't getting bites on them, if I took that off, downriggers would die. But if I left it out there, I think the downriggers kept going later in the day. Is one thing I kind of noticed, going back to pulling things in or out. It's like that was the draw. Then they kind of like the flashy stuff. They didn't want that, but it sucked them into the boat. Goes back to why do we do glow in the dark in low light conditions? Why you're trying to make that visible from over here and draw them in. The scent from the cut bait's drawing them in. Yeah. It's hard to tell exactly if that's really going, but that was just my feeling. That's what worked for me. So I stuck with it, and probably why it worked because I did it more too.
So,
but
I just thought of like my last observation that you guys can comment on, but again, walleye to salmon fishing. So I use Bert's custom tackle riser cradles, and I've always gone with the aluminum riser just because it's just stronger and whatever else. And those work fine. And we found out with Chip, he had a big the
real clamps on the back.
The real clamps, and it didn't fit in the little thing. So we had fortunately a couple Bert's tubes on the back end there, and we switched those around just so we could try to run those wires for a bit. But like the swivel trees that I have there, something really sturdy, small footprint, because when you're in, again, it's a really big, small boat, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to maximize your space in that thing. And being able to put 3 or 4 rods, because if let's say, again, a lot of stuff we've done on Lake Michigan, you put downriggers and things in because you got the rods, and you can, but all of our fish come on the coppers or lead cores or whatever. And having that tree that's a small footprint but sturdy to get and elevate and separate those tips, because there was a couple of them, if we would have had rod holders close, you would have been ripping bad. You'd have ripped into another rod or God knows what. And then even like I've got that rod corral on the front deck. So I was just looking for as many places to be able to get rods out of the way that we weren't using or moving from spot to spot so we're not tangling up. And those create things because, as a guide, I can tell you when guys, they start cramming all the rods together and then they get there and they spend 10 minutes untangling their dipsies and everything. That's inefficiency. You can't get bit, or they get nicked up or something caught in something, and all of a sudden, fish off because the diver got burned. What you did tangling them up. So,
well, it goes. You fished on my boat where all my board rods are way forward, then my dipsies and stuff, and you saw today. It's small boat fishing where we don't have as much room in the small boats. That one fish we had got right into both our dipsies over there because they're hanging back at the back of the boat instead of way farther forward.
So because I wasn't reeling like a ginger ninja in the back, netted between 2 rods.
I think it was Doug working the.
Yeah.
Doug was working
you saw what I did. You saw what I did. I know.
You made a wild stab. And
I could have caught a 40-pound king with one finger today. You guys wouldn't be giving me no credit. It's fine. But it was like a ninja back there. I mean, dancing on the back. I wouldn't even let you guys stand on the back deck, to be honest with you. You guys are old and everything. But do you have anything else you'd like to impart from our day? And I'm sure there's one last bashing you have to get in this bullying session we're going to call a podcast.
No, it was a great time. Yeah, I think with everything that we had going and just coming up here and just doing our thing, it was a great day. And I think it's going to be a really good season. I think the fish they looked really healthy. I mean, that was the one thing I noticed today is those fish, they were full of bait and they look really healthy. So I think it's going to be a real good year up here.
Well, if you want to get some new equipment and don't know what, you can even call up at FishUSA and talk to one of those boys. They'll get you dialed in, right?
Absolutely.
The thing with this is you want to buy once, cry once. So make sure you get the right stuff.
Get the right stuff.
And, don't get any junky reels because they're going to get chewed up. We were using Takotas and things like that, and that doesn't make a difference. Just a little bit extra money, you'll have those things. We were using Takotas in the boat, and those low divers, they're at least 20 years old, and I fish a lot more than most people, and they're still going. Never had them cleaned or anything.
Yep, they were great. Absolutely.
Chip, was there any other bullying you'd like to do? I mean, I felt tacked here for there's a few minutes. I'll be okay, but
really? You're gonna be okay?
Yeah, I think so. We'll see. It's been a long day.
Feel bad?
It's been a long day. Yeah.
Well, it depends on. Do I have to drive home tomorrow? Show for you again, or?
So let me just tell you, he didn't look at his contract. Me and Mom talked about it again. When you hit, I didn't get no gold watch. 25 years with the company. Okay, there ain't no retirement program with Silver Streak for me, apparently. Okay, I get some blades every now and then thrown in the pocket or whatever, but he's got to drive home. Long story short. Yeah, it was nice. There might have been a video that probably will already be out by the time this even runs where I was like, driving Miss Daisy.
I'll take care of the princess. That's okay.
God knows he needs it. But at any rate, until the next episode, thanks for joining us there. Thanks for the fishing thing. It's just fun to do some different stuff and trying to make an effort to do that. Not only for showing these people some of that stuff, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So you guys get tired of catching walleyes if that's what you're doing, or maybe you're over on Lake Michigan, want to try something different. It's the same, but it's different over here, right?
Yep. It's a little different everywhere, but it's still fun.
It's fun. That's what matters.
Until the next episode, make sure you check us in, subscribe, do all that stuff. We are on so many places I shouldn't even have to tell you at this point, but in case you're a newbie, bigwaterfishing.com. It's Bigwater Fishing at YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, pretty much anything. Google us. If you can't find us, you probably suck at finding walleyes. And that's all I'm going to say about that.